I didn't raise my voice when the HOA president pointed her finger at me and called my shed an illegal structure. She had a stack of violation notices in front of her like she was holding court, and their lawyer, some local guy with a thinning tie and a nervous smile, kept nodding along like he'd already won. I didn't bother arguing. I just slid the manila folder across the table, let the top page fall open, and watched his face shift as he read the title chain. He blinked twice, rubbed his eyes like maybe he was misreading the bold county stamp, and then leaned back in silence. The president was still talking until she realized no one on her side was listening anymore. That was the moment everything changed. The truth is, I never set out to fight anyone. My life before all of this was quiet, by design. I had inherited a cabin on a strip of old lakefront property my grandfather bought back in the 50s, back when the whole valley was just pine, water, and dirt roads. It wasn't fancy. The cabin still smelled faintly of cedar and kerosene from his days. The boards creaked, and the roof needed patching every few years. But for me it was enough. After years of city life, noise, and work politics, the idea of coming out here, fixing the place up, and fishing in the mornings felt like a kind of peace you can't buy. I wasn't trying to impress neighbors or win community brownie points. I just wanted to be left alone on a piece of ground my family had cared for longer than most of the HOA's board members had been alive. At first, things were tolerable. I knew there was an HOA technically managing the subdivision across the road, but my place wasn't really part of their development. My grandfather's land had never been annexed into their filings. It was older, separate, and recorded on its own tract number. I assumed they knew that, and I figured it would never be an issue. That illusion ended the day I found a notice taped to my shed, bright orange paper, stamped final warning. According to them, my shed violated architectural guidelines for uniformity of structures. I actually laughed when I first read it. My shed was a weathered outbuilding from the 60s, sitting on the same foundation it always had, on land that wasn't even in their jurisdiction. I thought it was a mistake, a clerical error. Surely they couldn't mean me. But it wasn't a mistake. Within weeks, I got a certified letter threatening daily fines, lien action, and possible seizure of property if I didn't comply. They described my shed like it was some rogue bunker threatening the harmony of their manicured lawns. I tried to be reasonable. I emailed the president directly, explained the shed had been standing since long before the HOA even existed, and that my property records clearly placed me outside their authority. I even attached a copy of my parcel number from the county assessor's office. The only reply I got was a Kate message. All properties within this resort community must comply with HOA rules. You are no exception. That line, "You are no exception," was when something in me shifted. I tried diplomacy a little longer. I showed up to one of their board meetings with my paperwork in hand. I was polite. I waited my turn, spoke calmly, and laid out the facts. They smirked, whispered to each other, and brushed me off. The president suggested maybe I wasn't reading the documents correctly, and their lawyer half-shrugged like he was humoring a crank. Then the threats escalated. They sent someone to take photographs of my shed, circling it like vultures. Neighbors who used to wave started looking the other way, afraid of being caught on the wrong side. That's when I stopped sending emails and started reading property law. If they wanted to push me, I was going to push back, with precision. I spent nights hunched over old records, flipping through scanned deeds, plats, and survey maps. The deeper I dug, the stranger it got. Not only was my land separate from the HOA's subdivision, but the parcel descriptions showed that my grandfather's original purchase included far more than just the cabin lot. The man had quietly bought up adjoining tracts over decades, piece by piece, until his holdings wrapped around most of the resort community. When he passed, it all went into a trust, then down to my father, and then to me. The shed they were threatening to seize. It didn't just sit outside their jurisdiction. It sat on property that legally encompassed half of their so-called common area. The golf course, the clubhouse, the manicured walking paths, they were all technically built on land that had never been fully conveyed to the HOA. I didn't run to them with this immediately. Instead, I documented everything. I pulled certified copies of every deed in the chain, cross-referenced tract maps, even photographed county filings that showed the boundary lines they had been ignoring for decades. I called in a friend who worked in surveying to double-check the measurements. It wasn't just a technicality. It was black and white law. The HOA's entire authority stopped short of my shed, and much of what they claimed as theirs wasn't even theirs at all. The more I pieced it together, the calmer I felt. Nights that once kept me up in frustration now kept me up in quiet planning. So when I walked into that next board meeting with my manila folder, I wasn't angry. I was prepared. I let them talk first. The president was in her element, waving violation notices like a queen with proclamations. Their lawyer gave a rehearsed spiel about noncompliance and community standards. And then I opened the folder. I didn't give a speech. I didn't raise my voice. I just spread the certified deeds across the table, each stamped and recorded, showing clear title to not just my lot, but the entire tract their HOA was built on. The lawyer went pale. The president's words slowed, then stopped. One board member leaned forward, scanning the documents with wide eyes, and finally muttered, "Oh, God." That moment, the silence that settled in after months of their threats, was worth every hour I spent buried in county records. The aftermath was almost anticlimactic. The fines vanished overnight. The letters stopped. Their lawyer quietly resigned from representing them. Within months, 2 board members stepped down for personal reasons. The president stopped making eye contact with me altogether. The HOA still exists, technically, but its power shrank to a whisper. They know now that every move they make is constrained by the simple fact that my family's name is on the land beneath their feet. They don't threaten me anymore. They don't even knock. When I drive past, some of them wave stiffly, others turn their backs, but either way, it's quiet again. And that's all I ever wanted. It still makes me shake my head sometimes, how far they pushed it over a shed. A shed that stood long before their rules, their gates, their golf carts, or their smug little newsletters. They thought they could bully me into submission with fines and threats, but they forgot the one rule that matters most in property fights. You can't outvote a deed. Now, when I sit on the porch of that cabin, watching the lake through the pines, I feel something deeper than just relief. It's a reminder that my grandfather's stubbornness, the same stubborn streak they tried to find out of me, is what kept this land in our family. They tried to erase that with paperwork and arrogance. All I had to do was remind them whose name was carved into the record books long before theirs. And I'll admit, sometimes when I see them mowing the grass on land they no longer have the right to claim, I allow myself the smallest smile. Because the truth is, the HOA didn't just fail to take my shed. They handed me back the whole resort tract without even realizing it. And that's a mistake they'll never live down.